Hi, and welcome to Conversations with Cliff, a professional in-service training series for caregivers and child-serving professionals. Today's session, Relational Red Flags, focuses on identifying and preventing online grooming and sexual exploitation of children. In just a few moments, we're going to walk through the key stages of grooming, current statistics, and actionable strategies to help you identify early warning signs and intervene before harm happens. Whether you're a parent, educator, therapist, or advocate, your role is essential in building protective environments for children, both online and offline. Grooming is not impulsive. In fact, it's quite deliberate and often strategic. According to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, grooming involves gradually drawing a child into a sexual relationship and maintaining that relationship through secrecy and emotional manipulation. It often begins with something that appears harmless, maybe some extra attention, a friendship, or compliments. But behind that, there's a calculated effort to build trust and isolate the child from their support system. Recent research highlights just how widespread this issue is. A global meta-analysis found that approximately 1 in 12 children have experienced some form of online sexual abuse, including grooming, coercion, or the sharing of sexual images. More specifically, about 12.5% of youth report receiving unwanted sexual talk online, and about 12.6% have been exposed to non-consensual sexual content, often sent by individuals they've met online. Grooming most commonly occurs on platforms that are deeply embedded in children's and teens' daily lives, platforms that adults often overlook. These include social media apps like Snapchat or Instagram, online and interactive video games with chat features, and encrypted apps like WhatsApp or Discord, which allow for private, unmonitored communication. The combination of relational trust building and platform familiarity makes grooming a difficult process to detect for caregivers and professionals who work with children and families. However, this is not impossible to interrupt when caregivers and professionals are aware and engaged. Alright, so online grooming can be difficult to detect, even knowing the red flags. So, as I educate you, it's important that you take this information and educate your child or your client. So one red flag is going to be flattery. Statements like "you're so mature for your age" can be used to create a sense of specialness or exclusivity for the child from the groomer. Groomers often build secrecy into their relationships with the child with comments like "let's keep this between us," which can isolate the child from others. Another tactic is emotional manipulation that leads to isolation from trusted adults, making the child more dependent on the abuser for affirmation and connection. A key behavioral red flag is going to be a shift from like a public online chat method, so maybe it's going to be an interactive game, moving that contact or communication to a more private method of communication like WhatsApp or Discord, as mentioned before. Perhaps one of the most dangerous red flags is going to be groomers will slowly escalate conversations towards sexual content, kind of testing the boundaries. They're not going to do this immediately. It's not going to be, full force. They're going to throw in tiny bits of abuse at a time until it's full blown. This is done to kind of test the boundaries and desensitize the child to the content, whether it's going to be conversation or pictures, videos. These strategies form what's called the digital grooming progression. You're going to have first the contact, then that contact is going to be used to build the trust. Then you're going to throw in some secrecy after you earn that trust. Then you're going to use that combination to exploit the child, making them dependent on you for that connection through that emotional manipulation, which is going to create a sense of silence, allowing the abuser to continue the abuse. understanding this progression through in this sequence can really help you help your child or your client prevent being victimized from online grooming and sexual abuse. Knowing these red flags have allowed us through research to establish some proven ways to prevent online grooming and sexual exploitation of children and our clients, those of us who work with kiddos. This is going to be through connection. So consistent, curious, and open dialogue between you and your child about these red flags, what they look like, what to do when if they start to feel that this is happening. This is going to be a conversation you want to have with your child early. Don't ever wait until you think that it's happening. Start before. Using open-ended questions in a non-judgmental approach and tone of voice is so important. This helps you build that trust between you and your child, which will open the door for your child to feel safe and comfortable coming to you with the disclosure if there is one. And it's important that you believe your child when they come to you and explain that something's happening. You're going to want to model safe online behavior by using apps together with your child. So if you're going to allow your child to download an app, then there's no reason that you shouldn't have that app as well. This will allow you to understand what goes on that app and then go a little further with that understanding by defining the boundaries for your child and then respecting those boundaries yourself so your child can see. There are some parental supports for online monitoring, and it's important to understand that keyword, supports, not substitutes. Tools like Bark or Custodio or Apple Screen Time can help monitor your child's activity. And again, these are not substitutions. They're just additional reinforcements to support your child in their safety. Additionally, you're going to want to start teaching your child about relational literacy. Help them understand what a safe digital and in-person relationship looks like and how to recognize unsafe behaviors. Resorting back to those red flags. Remember, fear of not being believed is one of the biggest barriers to disclosure. And ignorance of what's taking place as well. According to Darkness to Light, children are significantly more likely to speak up when they know the adults around them will respond with belief and support. As professionals and caregivers, our role is to build that bridge of trust. As I often say, prevention starts with connection. Now you know the prevalence of online grooming and sexual abuse of children, common red flags that it could be happening, and key approaches for prevention. As I wrap up this short conversation with Cliff in-service session, I would like to leave you with 3 simple words. Watch, ask, connect. Watch for red flags. Ask questions, not just about school or friends, but about your child's online interactions. And most importantly, stay connected. Connection is your most powerful tool in preventing harm. If a child knows they can come to you, they are already safer. I encourage you to explore and share resources from these trusted organizations listed below. Thorn.org, the leader in technology-based childhood sexual abuse prevention. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. There's tons of resources there. And Darkness to Light has prevention education. And finally, EnoughAbuse.org. There's some tips for advocacy and further training if you would like. Thank you for showing up for your children today, whether it be your child or your client. Together we can create a safe digital and relational environment where every child has the opportunity to grow free from harm.